So stress can be very obvious. It can be, we can have a gross kind of stress, which of course, depending on our life circumstances might be difficult. There might be conflict in our work, in our family lives, in our relationships, even a measure of internal conflict, of course. And we can experience things like anger and anxiety, depression, difficult emotions. So this is a sort of a gross manifestation of stress. This is the obvious stuff that we all know and recognize quite easily. However, stress can be quite subtle as well. It can be just a feeling of being unsettled. It can be something like loneliness, a feeling, and not loneliness even in a gross sense, but loneliness in terms of just feeling a little bit absent from life, a little bit separate from life, a little bit estranged from ourselves, a sensation almost as if something's missing or something's not quite right, as if we're not comfortable in our own skin. And this is something as human beings we all experience. Even if we're sailing along and life seems great, there's often, when we slow down and we check in, there's a little feeling of, oh, actually, hold on, what's this little sensation that that things could be better? Yeah. So the Buddha called this dukkha. Dukkha is often translated as suffering, but really it means stress. And as I said, it can be this gross form of stress, but also this more subtle form of stress. And in my experience working with people in clinic, it's most people who come through the door just want to be free from stress. We don't want to have stress in our lives. We don't want to experience this slightly icky feeling or enormously icky feeling, depending on the degree of it. And most people just want to feel a little bit more peaceful. We want to feel a little bit more peaceful, and we also want to be able to, most people that I speak to want to be able to not be so cruel, not be so hurtful to ourselves and to others. So why is it? Why is it that we find ourselves in a situation where we're being sort of pushed and pulled around by our habits, where we find ourselves living in a way or behaving in a way or thinking in a way that isn't constructive, that isn't helpful, that isn't skillful, that is hurtful to us and to other people? Well, back when we first, Nadia and I first moved up to Byron and we started running Medita and starting the clinic again and doing things like that, Nadia did a little Facebook survey. She put out like a little questionnaire asking people where they were at and where they wanted to be with their health, and you know, how happy they are in their lives, and what they thought it was that was preventing themselves from getting there, from feeling that good about themselves and where they were at. And the majority of people wrote back to that last question. They thought that the biggest thing preventing themselves getting from where they were to where they wanted to be was them. There was a huge percentage of people wrote back saying, you know what, I self-sabotage. Yeah, I'm the reason I'm not getting where I want to be. I sort of start out well, but I fall off the rails. I've talked to lots of great practitioners, but I just sort of don't seem to be able to follow through. I get inspired and there's an impetus to say, yeah, right, great, let's do this. But then for some reason I fall off track. You know, I fall off the wagon, and I never seem to be able to crack that mystery of why I can't keep doing it, why I can't continue to follow through. And so this is the case with This is the case with a lot of Ayurveda and a lot of traditional medicine recommendations. It's grassrootsy sort of stuff. It's a lot of it is grandmother wisdom in terms of the day-to-day things that we can have in place that are skillful to do on a regular basis, that are going to help support and nourish a healthy mind and body. But so often we don't do it. So often we skip past that stuff, and then before we know it, we're off track again. So why does this happen? Why do we self-sabotage? Why do we go off the rails, and why can't we follow through? Well, in Ayurveda, we look at this and we say the reason is agitation. There's an energy of agitation that is there in the mind and in the body, that in Sanskrit we call it rajas, R-A-J-A-S. And this energy of rajas is an energy of agitation and movement. And according to Ayurveda, it's the primary cause of imbalance. It's the primary cause of disease, is this energy of agitation. It's said in certain texts that the first cause of disease is a sense of separation. In classical teachings, they'd say it's a feeling of being separate from God or separate from the divine. But really, we can just say it's this lingering, nagging sense of separation from something bigger than ourselves, if you like, from our biggest sense of self even. And this feeds and perpetuates this energy of agitation. It causes us to feel hurried. It causes us to feel restless. It causes us to feel unsettled, impatient, even tense and uptight. And so much of the time, what we are trying to do is fix this feeling of unsettledness, fix this feeling of stress, fix this feeling of dissatisfaction. So we've got ourselves in this problem solution setup. We feel like there's a problem. It's this sense of separation or unsettledness or dissatisfaction. And we are constantly on the lookout as to how we can fix this problem. And these days, there are lots of options around. Yeah, there's a lot of options in terms of how to be happy, how to improve ourselves, how to be healthy, and it can be incredibly confusing. Incredibly confusing. There's with this confusion, of course, comes more stress. And has anyone ever heard of the condition orthorexia? Orthorexia is a eating disorder which is caused by neurosis around food, but not so much about neurosis around body image. It's caused by neurosis around what's healthy, what's the right way to be healthy. So this is a product of what we have available in terms of all the various options and paths and diets and approaches to being healthy and working with your mind and trying to stay sane. And yeah. So with all those options, this can be overwhelming and it can be stressful. So we might be trying to be good. We might be trying to do the right thing. We might be trying to lock in just the right solution, whether it's our diet that we've chosen, whether it's sticking to exactly the right lifestyle that maybe our naturopath's given us, or we've read in some book that's the latest book about how to live your life. It might be a new fitness program we're trying, or a new approach to yoga. Hoping all the time that these measures we've adopted are going to be the final solution. That this is going to be the thing that fixes this feeling of stress, this feeling of not quite rightness. However, what happens is that even our attempts towards health and sanity, they get infused with this same energy of agitation. We bring that energy of agitation into our attempts to get better, into our attempts to fix ourselves. And so what happens is that feeling of hurry, or our sort of, that agitation feeds perhaps an over intensity that we're prone to, a sense of striving or urgency. We might be prone to having a bit of a scattered mind, and so it feeds this scattered random approach. All of which, yeah, those energies are those qualities are the same things that led to us becoming unwell in the first place, or unhappy in the first place. So we use the same, we try to use that energy that created the imbalance, that created this feeling of dissatisfaction and stress. We try to bring that on board. We try to use that as our fuel source to get better. So of course, it's difficult to sustain our efforts. It's difficult to stay on track. Remember the Facebook survey, yeah? This is why we self-sabotage, because we're bringing this sense of agitation to try and fix what's wrong. And so often, of course, this just perpetuates the feeling of stress. The actual medicine that we need, the medicine needs to have the opposite qualities to those of agitation. So the grandma medicine approach of things like slowing down, keeping things nice and simple, are absolutely key. Please, 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 I know you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but don't skip past this. Don't step past and say, okay, yep, so just tell me what I can do now. That's what you can do, yeah? You can slow down and you can keep things a bit more simple. That has to be at the absolute foundation of your approach, of the way that you are meeting your life. Otherwise, nothing else that you do will work very well. Nothing will stick, nothing will soak in, nothing will take effect, nothing will transform your mind and the way that you are meeting the world unless you slow down and keep things simple. It's that simple.